Hello there, welcome to Critical Reviews. Today, I'm taking a look at Superman. When James Gunn was announced as the new custodian and CEO of the DCEU, reinvigorating the dormant franchise with Superman, I had my concerns. After all, this ex-Troma creator was known for his zany ensemble-centred films like Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy, both of which I have to say I enjoyed immensely. But does that really translate to the Man of Steel? The marketing that was then sent our way only reinforced those concerns. We knew that Gunn could make Superman fly, but could he stick the landing? Before I get into it in detail, your spoiler-free plot summary. Superman has been doing his thing for 3 years, with its exploits being a part of everyday life for the people of Earth. But a recent intervention in an armed invasion by the country of Boravia has seen public and media opinion sway against him for the first time. When a campaign engineered by Lex Luthor sees him considered a villain and an enemy of the state, he will need to team up with the Justice Gang before Luthor's machinations have world-altering ramifications. This is going to legitimately be a tricky movie to review. Well known that half an hour was removed from the runtime after audience testing, and I do sometimes wonder what was in this 30 minutes, because what we have here is frankly, from a narrative position, a bit of a mess. It kind of feels like two movies smashed together, inelegantly. You also feel that you must have missed a film, that there has to be a story before this you haven't seen. The audience is hurled into this world with a jolt, with a series of lines of text. We don't necessarily need to see Martin Parr Kent discovering Clark all over again, but it certainly feels disjointed. Things in this film just happen. MacGuffins, plot contrivances just exist. Pocket universes, naturally. Kaijus and armoured villains out of nowhere, an everyday occurrence. It's very comic book, for better or worse. And that extends to the look of the film, rarely letting up for a second, with action shots frequently framed like a comic book. It's bright and colourful, vivid in fact. Zack Snyder's universe, this is not. That's despite many of the main themes being approached here, the public and government's perception of this super powerful alien being explored. It just feels a little bit weird here, 3 years into Superman's exploits. A massive change to his origin story that will absolutely bring the ire of purists is clumsily inserted to this end. So, let's get into the characters and the performances. David Corenswet as Superman is good. A bit young, brash and punk rock, as he himself says. Certainly he is a stark contrast from that which has been served up recently. This Superman gets beat, screws up, and acts upon gut instincts. He has great chemistry with Rachel Brosnahan, who is much more Margot Kidder than previous iterations. This film finds a way for her to have a much larger role here without turning her into a girl boss. She is tenacious, spiky and driven, and she really likes sugar. Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor, disappointed. I rate Holt highly and think he could have been a great Lex, but he lacks gravitas here, coming across more like a petulant, envious child than the calculated, controlled mastermind foil to Superman that he should be. I blame the script. His girlfriend Eve has a major role in the film that can be eye-rolling or eye-opening at the very least. On to the Justice Gang. Nathan Fillion perfectly captures Guy Gardner's arsehole persona. Mr. Terrific, played by Edie Gaffagey, is probably the best thing about the film, and Isabella Merced's Hawk Girl hits things and shouts at them. There are also a multitude of ancillary characters here that I will not detail, but I have to say the Kents are noticeably more hillbilly than previous iterations. So, let's detail some things that I did like about this film, because ultimately, I have to say, I did enjoy it, despite its many issues. Firstly, it has that trademark Gunn heart. Despite the end result, Gunn's affections for these characters shines through, and fuzzy animals and fuzzy feelings are both his forte. Amongst the Technicolor kaleidoscopic carnage, there are genuine moments of heart. It's something that he does very well, and while often there is an ill-judged joke and the film never really lets up in its pace for a moment, it is there, and I appreciated it. The spectacle. This is a very visual film, $225 million, and all of it is on screen. Some of it is very impressive indeed. There were times that I had a smile on my face purely from what I was being shown. Some stuff is a little bit weird, and it does become apparent that, for better or for worse, the same cinematographer from The Flash is at work, but everything is dynamic and exciting, if maybe a little too reliant on Industrial Light and Magic's CGI skills. Superman himself, although he is punk rock, is a marked step up from Cavill's Kal-El. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Cavill fan, but his dour Superman was always a contentious issue, and while he was never going to fit Gunn's version of a young Superman, I would have loved to have seen him play his optimistic and hopeful take on the character that he so cherished. It's a real shame that he never got to. But this Superman not only saves things, including a squirrel, he also does his best to mitigate damage, although it should be noted that the end of the film is sadly set to apocalyptic levels of destruction as usual. It's nice to see him at least try to stop some of the destruction. The Justice Gang. Despite their screen time taking away from the core narrative and Big Blue, this kind of ensemble is Gunn's wheelhouse, and they are done very well. Mr. Terrific, in particular, is amazing. I had no idea who he was before the start of the film, but he steals every scene and makes himself a massive presence. And Krypto, this furry little bastard, steals the show, just like Gunn intended. It's entirely at the expense of the main character, but this unruly little white terror will probably steal your heart, just like the fuzzies in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Final thoughts. Superman is a mess. It is an incoherent, jagged, misjudged and frankly bonkers movie that sacrifices needed time with the central character in the interests of inserting a bunch of stuff that means we never really get to know Kal-El and Clark Kent at all. As an introduction to a new DCEU, it is frankly lacking. At the end of the day, I stick to my original opinion that James Gunn was probably not the person to handle Superman, at least not on his own. This needed another input for sure, calming down Gunn's excesses. Some of the film is entirely unnecessary, and while it might draw a smile or a knowing nod from comic book aficionados, it will leave a lot of viewers nonplussed. However, it is a film that plays to Gunn's strengths. He wrote it and directed it, and by Gunn, it is his film. So whether or not you enjoy it will depend on how much you like Gunn's other works. I enjoyed James Gunn's Superman, and I think you might too, but look up, because otherwise you'll see just how flawed this entry actually is. Thanks for watching. I've been Critic, and I'll be back with another review soon.